How to sound confident, even when fear is screaming inside. An audiobook about finding your voice when your heart is racing. Introduction. I was afraid to speak until I realized silence was louder than fear. I used to think confidence was something you either had or you didn't. That some people were born with steady voices and unshakable certainty, while the rest of us were destined to stumble over our words, our hearts pounding, our hands trembling. I thought that if I felt fear, I had no right to speak, that my shaking voice would expose me as a fraud, that people would hear the tremor and dismiss everything I said. So I stayed quiet, I swallowed my words, I let others speak for me, over me instead of me, and I told myself it was safer that way. But here's what I learned: silence isn't safety, it's surrender. Every time I stayed quiet out of fear, I gave my power away. Every time I let the fear win, I reinforced the belief that my voice didn't matter, that I didn't matter. And then one day something shifted. I realized that the fear wasn't going away. It was never going to disappear and then let me speak. I had to speak anyway, with the fear, through the fear, despite the fear, because here's the truth nobody tells you: confidence isn't the absence of fear. It's the sound you make when you decide fear doesn't get to choose for you anymore. This book isn't about becoming fearless, it's about becoming unstoppable. It's about learning to sound confident even when your voice shakes, even when your heart races, even when everything inside you screams to stay silent. Your voice matters, even when it trembles, especially when it trembles. Let's find it together. Chapter 1. They're confident, she's trembling, but they're all listening to her. The myth of the perfect speaker. You've seen her, the woman at the meeting who raises her hand, her voice slightly uncertain, maybe even apologetic at first. She clears her throat, her hands fidget with her notes. You can hear the nervousness. And yet, everyone leans in, everyone listens, and when she finishes speaking, the room shifts, her idea gets approved, her perspective changes the conversation. Meanwhile, the loud guy who spoke before her, the one who sounded so confident, so sure, has already forgotten. What's the difference? It's not volume, it's not perfection, it's not the absence of fear, it's authenticity. It's the fact that she spoke despite the fear, and people could feel that courage. They could sense that what she was saying mattered so much to her that she was willing to be uncomfortable to say it. Confidence doesn't always sound smooth. Sometimes it sounds nervous. Sometimes it cracks. Sometimes it's quiet and halting and imperfect. But when it's real, people listen. Why? We think confidence means no fear somewhere along the way. We were taught that confident people don't get nervous, that if you're scared, you're not ready, that real leaders never doubt themselves. That's a lie. Confident people feel fear all the time. They just don't let it make their decisions. They don't wait until the fear subsides to act. They act with the fear sitting right there in their chest. You think the woman who just gave that incredible TED Talk wasn't terrified? You think the entrepreneur pitching to investors doesn't feel her heart hammering? You think the person setting a boundary for the first time isn't shaking inside? They are, and they speak anyway. That's what makes them powerful. Not the absence of fears, the refusal to let fear silence them. The power of a shaking voice. Here's something that might surprise you: a shaking voice can be more powerful than a steady one. Why? Because it shows you care. It shows that what you're saying matters so much to you that you're willing to be vulnerable. It shows that you're human, not a robot delivering pre-programmed lines. People connect with vulnerability. They trust it. They remember it. So if your voice shakes when you speak up, don't apologize for it. Don't try to hide it. Own it. Because that shake is proof that you're being brave, and bravery is always magnetic. Chapter 2. You feel a lump in your throat. That's not weakness. That's the beginning. What that tightness really means: you know that feeling. The one where your throat closes up right before you need to speak. Where words get stuck somewhere between your heart and your mouth. Where your voice comes out strangled, small, not at all like what you meant to say. You've probably interpreted that feeling as weakness, as proof that you're not ready, not strong enough, not capable. But what if I told you it's the exact opposite? That tightness in your throat, that's your body responding to something important. That's your nervous system saying, this matters, pay attention, this is significant. It's not weakness, it's activation. It's your body preparing you to do something brave. The lump in your throat doesn't mean you shouldn't speak. It means what you're about to say is important enough to make you nervous. And that's exactly when your voice is most needed. Why your body reacts this way. Let's talk physiology for a second. When you're nervous, your body goes into fight or flight mode. your sympathetic nervous system kicks in. Blood flows away from non-essential functions like your digestive system and, yes, your vocal cords and toward your muscles, preparing you to run or fight. Your throat tightens, your breathing becomes shallow, your voice gets thinner, higher, shakier. This is normal. This is your body trying to protect you. It thinks you're in danger, so it's preparing you to survive. But here's the thing, you're not in physical danger. You're just scared of judgment, rejection, being wrong, looking foolish. Your body can't tell the difference between a life-threatening situation and an uncomfortable conversation, so it reacts the same way to both. Once you understand this, you can work with your body instead of fighting against it. Breathing through the block, the fastest way to release that tightness in your throat. Breathe, not shallow, panicky breaths, deep, intentional ones. Before you speak, take one deep breath, in through your nose for 4 counts. Hold for 4 counts, out through your mouth for 6 counts. This signals to your nervous system that you're safe. It activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode, and tells your body to relax. Your throat will loosen, your voice will steady, not perfectly maybe, but enough. Breathing doesn't eliminate fear, but it gives you access to your voice despite the fear. And that's all you need. The beginning, not the end. That lump in your throat isn't a stop sign. It's a starting line. It's your body's way of saying something important is about to happen. And it's your job to prove your body right by speaking anyway. So the next time you feel that tightness, don't interpret it as weakness. Interpret it as readiness, as your system gearing up for something brave. And then, open your mouth and speak. Chapter 3. Your voice shakes. Because you actually care. The voices that don't shake, you know who never sounds nervous? People who don't care. The person who's phoning it in at the meeting. The friend who's half listening while scrolling their phone. The speaker who's delivering the same script they've given 100 times before. They sound smooth, confident, unshakable, and also completely forgettable, because there's no life in their voice. No urgency, no real investment in what they're saying. Your voice shakes because you give a damn. Because what you're saying matters to you. Because you're emotionally invested in being heard, in being understood and making an impact. That shake, that's proof you're alive. That you're present, that you care. And people feel that, even if they can't articulate it. They sense the difference between someone who's just talking and someone who's saying something. Why apathy sounds confident? Apathy doesn't trigger fear. If you don't care about the outcome, there's nothing to be afraid of. No stakes, no risk, no vulnerability. So yes, apathy sounds confident. It sounds smooth and unaffected and effortlessly cool. But it also sounds empty. Confidence without care is just noise. It fills space but doesn't create connection. It might command attention for a moment, but it doesn't inspire, move, or change anything. Your shaking voice, on the other hand, that's the sound of someone who's willing to risk something, who's putting themselves on the line, who cares enough to be uncomfortable. And that's where real power lies. What your shake communicates. When your voice shakes, here's what people actually hear. This matters to me. I'm being honest. I'm nervous, but I'm doing it anyway. I care about this enough to be vulnerable. None of those things are weak. In fact, they're the opposite. They're courageous. So stop apologizing for the shake. Stop trying to hide it. Stop wishing you sounded more detached. Your shake is your signature. It's the proof that you're not just reciting lines, you are speaking your truth. Caring is your strength, not your weakness. We live in a world that treats emotional investment like a liability. That tells us to stay professional, to keep it together, to not take things personally. But here's what that really means. Don't care too much. Don't let them see it matters to you. Protect yourself by staying detached. And sure, detachment might keep you safe from disappointment, but it also keeps you safe from connection, impact, and meaning. Your caring is not a flaw, it's your fuel. It's what makes your voice worth listening to. So let it shake. Let people hear that you care. Because in a world full of people who are too cool to give a damn, your caring is the most confident thing about you. Chapter 4. How to speak when your heart is beating faster than your words. When your body outruns your mind, you know this feeling. You're about to speak. Your heart is pounding so hard you can hear it in your ears. Your thoughts are rang. What should I say? How should I say it? What if I mess this up? What if they judge me? And then you open your mouth and nothing. Or worse, a jumbled mess of half-thoughts that don't sound anything like what you meant. Your heart is moving faster than your words can keep up. This is one of the most frustrating aspects of speaking under pressure. Your body is in overdrive, your mind is spinning, and your voice is trying to catch up to both. But here's the secret: you don't need to slow your heart down to speak clearly. You just need to slow your words down. The pause that changes everything. When your heart is racing, your instinct is to rush, to get through it as fast as possible, to word vomit everything out before you lose your nerve. Resist that urge. Instead, pause, not for a long time, just for a beat. One breath between thoughts. It feels excruciating when you're doing it. It feels like an eternity of silence, but to your listener, it sounds intentional, thoughtful, confident. A pause gives you time to catch your breath literally. It gives your racing heart a moment to settle. It gives your brain a second to organize the next thought. And it makes you sound like someone who's in control, even when you feel anything but. Speaking in shorter sentences when you're nervous. Long, complex sentences are your enemy. They require too much breath, too much coordination, too much mental bandwidth. Short sentences are your friend. Instead of "I've been thinking a lot about this, and I really feel like we need to reconsider the approach we're taking because I think there's a better way forward that might work for everyone." Try "I've been thinking about this. I believe we need to reconsider our approach. There's a better way forward." See the difference? Same message, less room for your nerves to trip you up. Short sentences also create natural pauses. They give you space to breathe between thoughts. They make it easier for your listener to follow along, and they make you sound clear, direct, and, yes, confident. Anchoring to your breath. Your breath is the bridge between your racing heart and your voice. When your breath is shallow and fast, your voice will be too. When your breath is deep and steady, your voice will follow. So before you speak, anchor to your breath. One deep breath in, one slow breath out, and then start speaking on the exhale. This ensures you have enough air to support your voice, and it naturally slows your pace. If you feel yourself speeding up mid-sentence, pause, breathe, then continue. Your breath is your reset button. Use it as many times as you need. You don't have to outrun your heart. Here's the truth: your heart might keep racing the entire time you're speaking, and that's okay. You don't need to wait until your body calms down to speak. You don't need to get over your nerves first. You just need to speak with them, at a pace your voice can manage, with pauses that let you breathe, with short, clear sentences that don't require you to be perfect. Your heart can pound, your hands can shake, your voice can tremble, and you can still be heard. Chapter 5: Fear will undervalue you. Confidence will overvalue you. You'll find balance on your own. The fear voice versus the confidence voice. You have two voices inside you. The fear voice says, "Who am I to speak up? What if I'm wrong? They're going to think I'm stupid. I should just stay quiet." The confidence voice says, "I have something worth saying. My perspective matters. Even if I'm wrong, I'm learning. I have a right to be heard." Most of us spend our lives listening to the fear voice. It's louder, more insistent, more familiar. But here's the problem: the fear voice always undervalues you. It tells you you're not ready, not smart enough, not experienced enough, not worthy enough. And if you listen to it too much, you'll never speak. You'll wait forever for permission that's never coming. On the flip side, if you only listen to the confidence voice, if you ignore fear entirely and assume you're always right, you become arrogant, dismissive, closed off to growth. The goal isn't to silence one voice and only hear the other. The goal is to find balance. Why fear lies to you? Fear's job is to keep you safe, but it doesn't know the difference between physical danger and social discomfort. It treats both like threats to your survival. So when you're about to speak up in a meeting, fear says, "Don't do it. You'll be judged. You'll be rejected." It's not safe, but you're not in danger. You're just uncomfortable. Fear lies because it's working with outdated information. It's trying to protect you from being cast out of the tribe, which thousands of years ago was life-threatening. But now the worst that can happen is someone disagrees with you, or you feel embarrassed for a few minutes, or you realize you were wrong and learn something new. None of those things will kill you, but fear doesn't know that. So when fear tells you to stay quiet, thank it for trying to protect you, and then speak anyway. Why overconfidence backfires on the other end of the spectrum. There are people who never doubt themselves, who speak loudly, boldly, without hesitation, even when they don't know what they're talking about. And sure, they sound confident, but they're also often wrong, and worse, they're unteachable. Overconfidence isn't strength, it's defensiveness. It's the refusal to admit you might not know everything. And that closes you off from growth, feedback, and real connection. True confidence isn't about believing you're always right. It's about believing you're capable of handling being wrong. The balance between the two, here's the sweet spot. Speak with conviction, but stay open to being challenged. Trust that your perspective has value, and also trust that you can learn from others. Be brave enough to voice your thoughts, and humble enough to adjust them if new information comes in. That's real confidence, not the absence of doubt, but the willingness to act despite it. Not the certainty that you're right, but the courage to speak your truth and stay curious about others. You don't need to choose between fear and confidence. You need to let them coexist. Fear keeps you humble, confidence keeps you speaking, and the balance between them, that's wisdom. Chapter 6. Don't try to sound perfect. Sounding honest is stronger. The trap of perfection. You rehearse what you're going to say. You run through it in your head a dozen times. You craft the perfect sentence, the perfect tone, the perfect delivery, and then, when the moment comes, it doesn't come out right. You stumble, you forget a word, you say something slightly awkward, and you beat yourself up for it. But here's what you don't realize: no one cares about perfect. People don't connect with perfection, they connect with authenticity, with realness, with the slightly messy, fully human version of you. Perfection is sterile. It's rehearsed, it's safe, and it doesn't leave room for connection. Honesty, on the other hand, honesty is magnetic. Why we're drawn to imperfection? Think about the speakers, leaders, or friends who've impacted you most, the ones whose words stuck with you. Were they flawless, or did they hesitate, stumble, laugh at themselves, show their nervousness? It was the latter, wasn't it? Because when someone is real with you, when they let you see their humanity, you trust them. You believe them, you remember them. Perfection creates distance, imperfection creates connection. So when you mess up a word, when you pause to collect your thoughts, when your voice cracks, that's not failure, that's honesty, and honesty is always stronger than polish. What happens when you drop the script? I know you've been taught to prepare, to have your talking points ready, to know exactly what you're going to say. And preparation is good, it helps you organize your thoughts, it gives you a foundation. But don't cling to the script so tightly that you stop sounding like yourself. The most powerful moments happen when you let go of the perfect phrasing and just talk. When you say what you actually mean, in the words that come naturally to you, even if they're not polished, that's when people lean in. That's when they feel like they're hearing you, not a performance of you. How to sound honest. Sounding honest doesn't mean oversharing or being unprofessional. It means using your own words instead of corporate jargon or borrowed phrases, admitting when you don't know something instead of faking certainty, letting pauses happen instead of filling every silence with unnecessary words, showing emotion instead of pretending to be unaffected, being direct instead of softening everything to avoid discomfort. Honesty sounds like I'm still figuring this out, but here's what I think so far. Honesty sounds like I don't have all the answers, but I know this matters. Honesty sounds like I'm nervous saying this, and I'm saying it anyway. That's confidence, not pretending you have it all together, but being real about where you are. Perfect is forgettable, honest is unforgettable. At the end of the day, no one remembers the person who said everything perfectly, they remember the person who said something true. So stop aiming for flawless, start aiming for real. Let your voice crack. Let your words come out imperfectly. Let yourself be human, because perfect might impress people, but honest will change them. Chapter 7. How to stop waiting for confidence to arrive and start speaking now. The confidence trap. You tell yourself, when I'm more confident, I'll speak up. When I feel ready, I'll share my idea. When I'm not so nervous, I'll set that boundary. Here's the brutal truth: that day isn't coming. Confidence doesn't arrive like a package at your door. It doesn't suddenly show up one morning and announce, "Okay, now you're ready." Confidence is built through action, not before it. You don't get confident and then act. You act, and then you get confident. Every time you speak despite the fear, you're building evidence for yourself. Evidence that you can do hard things, that you can survive discomfort, that your voice matters. But if you wait for confidence first, you'll be waiting forever. Vacation confidence loop. Here's how it actually works. You're scared to speak, you speak anyway, nothing terrible happens, your brain logs this as evidence. Oh, speaking didn't kill me. Next time, you're slightly less scared, you speak again, your confidence grows. Action creates confidence, not the other way around. Every time you wait for confidence to show up first, you're breaking the loop. You're telling your brain, this is too scary, I can't handle it, and your brain believes you. But every time you act despite the fear, you're teaching your brain the opposite: I can handle this. even when it's uncomfortable. And slowly, over time, speaking becomes less terrifying, not because the fear disappears, but because you've proven to yourself that you can do it anyway. Small reps build big confidence. You don't have to start with the scariest thing. You don't have to give a TED talk or confront your boss tomorrow. Start small. Build tiny reps of speaking up. Speak up in a small meeting before you try the big presentation. Share an opinion with a friend before you post it publicly. Ask a question in a group setting before you pitch an idea. Each small act of speaking is a deposit in your confidence bank, and over time, those deposits add up. You don't need one massive, terrifying leap. You need consistent, small acts of courage, and before you know it, the things that used to terrify you will start to feel manageable. What to do when fear shows up? Fear is always going to show up. Accept that now. The goal isn't to eliminate fear. The goal is to act despite it. So when fear shows up, here's what you do. Acknowledge it. Okay, I'm scared. That's normal. Remind yourself why you're speaking. This matters. My voice matters. Take one breath. Speak anyway. That's it. That's the formula. Feel the fear. Breathe through it. Speak over and over and over again. That's how confidence is built. Not by waiting for fear to cleave, but by refusing to let it stop you. You're ready right now. You'll never feel 100 ready. You'll never feel perfectly confident. You'll never have all the answers. And that's okay, because you don't need to be perfect to speak. You don't need to be fearless to be brave. You just need to care enough about your message to say it out loud. You're ready right now, not because you feel ready, but because you've decided that staying silent is no longer an option. So stop waiting, stop rehearsing, stop telling yourself someday. Today is the day. This moment is the moment. Open your mouth and speak. Chapter 8. You don't have to be loud to be heard. The myth of volume. Somewhere along the way, we confused loudness with power. We started believing that the person who speaks the loudest, the most often, with the most certainty, that's the person who gets heard. And sure, loud voices command attention. They dominate conversations. They take up space. But do they actually create change? Do they build trust? Do they inspire? Not always, because volume without substance is just noise, and noise might fill a room, but it doesn't move hearts. Quiet voices can be just as powerful, sometimes more so. Why quiet can command attention? Think about the last time someone spoke softly in a loud room. What happened? People leaned in, they stopped talking, they listened more carefully. Quiet has a magnetic quality. It draws people toward you instead of pushing them away. It signals that you're not trying to overpower anyone, you're inviting them to hear you. And that invitation, that's what creates real connection. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You need to be clear, intentional, grounded, and those qualities can exist at any volume. What makes a voice powerful? A powerful voice isn't defined by its loudness. It's defined by its conviction. A powerful voice knows what it's saying and why. It doesn't waver. It doesn't apologize. It doesn't beg for permission. It simply states its truth and trusts that truth to land. You can do that quietly. You can do that in a calm, steady tone. You can do that without raising your voice at all. Power is in your certainty, not your decibels. When to speak softly, there are times when a soft voice is actually more effective than a loud one. When setting boundaries, boundaries don't need to be yelled. In fact, a quiet, firm no is often more impactful than a defensive shout. When delivering hard truths, speaking softly forces people to listen more carefully. It creates intimacy even in difficult conversations. When you're surrounded by noise, if everyone else is shouting, your calm, quiet voice will stand out. It becomes the signal in the chaos. Softness isn't weakness. Softness is control. It says I don't need to raise my voice to be taken seriously. My words carry weight on their own. The strength in stillness. Powerful people don't need to dominate the room. They don't need to talk over others or drown them out. They speak when it matters, and when they do, people listen, not because they're loud, but because they've earned trust. You can be quiet and still command a room. You can be soft-spoken and still change minds. You can be reserved and still lead. Your power isn't in your volume, it's in your presence. So stop trying to be louder. Stop forcing yourself to be something you're not. Be yourself. Speak in the way that feels true to you. And trust that the right people will hear you no matter how quietly you speak. Chapter 9. Speech Technique. How to sound calm even when there's a storm inside. Your voice is a tool you can train. Here's something empowering. Your voice is not fixed. It's a tool, and like any tool you can learn to use it more effectively. You might feel like your shaky voice, your tight throat, your racing words are just how you are. But they're not permanent, they're habits, and habits can be changed. With the right techniques, you can train your voice to sound calm, steady, and grounded even when your insides are screaming. It won't happen overnight, but with practice, it will happen. Technique 1: grounding through your feet before you speak. Especially if you're standing, feel your feet on the ground. This sounds absurdly simple, but it works. When you're nervous, your energy rises into your chest, your throat, your head. You feel untethered, like you might float away. Grounding brings you back down. Stand with your feet hip-width apart. Feel the weight of your body pressing into the floor. Imagine roots growing from the soles of your feet into the earth. This physical grounding translates into vocal grounding. Your voice will sound steadier, more anchored, more present. Techniques 2: speaking from your diaphragm when you're nervous. You breathe shallowly, high in your chest, and when you speak from shallow breath, your voice sounds thin, tight, and weak. The fix: breathe from your diaphragm. Put one hand on your chest and one on your belly. When you breathe in, your belly should expand, not your chest. That's diaphragmatic breathing. Now, when you speak, imagine your voice coming from that low, grounded place, not from your throat, but from your belly. This takes practice, but over time it will transform your voice. It'll sound fuller, warmer, more confident. Technique 3: slowing down your pace when you're nervous. Your instinct is to rush, to get through it as fast as possible. Resist that urge, slow down, speak at about 75 of your normal pace. It will feel uncomfortably slow to you, but to your listener, it will sound intentional and confident. Slowing down also gives you more control. You have time to choose your words, time to breathe between sentences, time to sound like someone who knows what they're saying. Slow, steady. Steady, confident. Technique 4: the power of the pause. Most people are terrified of silence, so they fill every gap with like, or just keep talking without stopping. But silence is powerful. A pause creates emphasis. It lets your words land. It gives your listener time to absorb what you said, and to you, it's a moment to breathe, collect your thoughts, and reset. Practice pausing between sentences, between thoughts, even mid-sentence if you need a breath. A confident person isn't afraid of silence. They use it. Technique 5: ending sentences with a period, not a question. This is a subtle but game-changing shift. When you're nervous, you might unconsciously raise your pitch at the end of sentence, turning statements into questions. I think we should do this. My idea is. This is called upspeak, and it makes you sound uncertain, like you're asking for approval. The fix: end your sentences with a period. Let your pitch drop at the end of the sentence. Make it a statement, not a question. I think we should do this. My idea is. Hear the difference? That downward inflection signals confidence. It says, I'm not asking, I'm telling. Technique 6: lowering your pitch slightly. High-pitched voices are associated with nervousness and youth. Lower-pitched voices are associated with authority and calm. You don't need to dramatically change your voice. Just bring it down slightly, especially when you're nervous and your pitch naturally rises. Speak from your chest, not your throat. This will naturally lower your pitch and make you sound more grounded. Technique 7: practice in low-stakes situations. You can't practice these techniques for the first time in high-pressure moments. You need to build muscle memory in low-stakes situations. Practice ordering coffee with slow, grounded speech, answering a simple question in a meeting, reading out loud to yourself, focusing on breath and pace. The more you practice when it doesn't matter, the more automatic these techniques become when it does matter. Your voice is trainable. You don't have to sound nervous forever. You don't have to let your shaky voice betray you. With practice, you can train your voice to sound calm even when your heart is racing. It won't eliminate the fear, but it will give you control. It will give you the ability to sound confident, which over time will help you feel confident too. Your voice is a tool, and now you know how to use it. Chapter 10: words that help you breathe, instead of words that make you silent. The language of fear versus the language of power. The words you use, both in your mind and out loud, shape how you feel and how you're perceived. Some words shrink you. They apologize, diminish, hedge. They make you sound uncertain even when you're not. Other words ground you. They assert, clarify, stand firm. They make space for your voice without apology. If you want to sound confident, you need to change your language. Words that shrink you. These are the phrases that undermine your message before you even finish saying it. I'm sorry, but this might be a stupid question, but I'm not sure if this makes sense, but does that make sense? I just think maybe we could, I don't know, but these phrases are permission seeking. They ask for approval before you've even finished speaking. They signal that you don't trust your own perspective, and if you don't trust it, why should anyone else? Words that ground you. These phrases create space for your voice without apology. I think we should. Here's what I'm noticing. My perspective is, I'd like to propose. I see it differently. Here's what matters to me. I need no hedging, no apology, no softening. Just clear, direct language that says this is what I think. This is what I need. This matters. Why we use short and winking language? We've been taught that direct language is aggressive. Especially for women. We're told to soften, to hedge, to make ourselves smaller so we don't threaten anyone. But here's the truth. Direct language isn't aggressive. It's clear, and clarity is kind. It doesn't leave people guessing. It doesn't make them work to understand you. It respects both your time and theirs. When you stop shrinking your language, you're not being rude, you're being honest. How to shift your language? Start by noticing. Pay attention to how often you apologize unnecessarily, hedge your statements, or ask for permission you don't need. Then, practice reframing instead of I'm sorry, but I think we should try a different approach. Say I think we should try a different approach. Instead of this might be a dumb idea, but what if we? Say what if we, instead of does that make sense? Say nothing, just stop talking. Let your statement stand. It will feel uncomfortable at first. You'll feel like you're being too blunt, too assertive, too much. You're not, you're just being clear, and clear is powerful. The power of I statements. I statements are underrated. They're direct without being aggressive. They own your perspective without imposing it on others. I think, I feel, I need. I've decided. These statements don't require anyone to agree with you. They just assert that your perspective exists and has value. You're not asking for permission. You're stating your truth, and that's confident. Words that help you breathe. When you stop using shrinking language, something shifts. You stop second-guessing yourself mid-sentence. You stop apologizing for taking up space. You stop hedging your truth, and you start breathing easier. Because you're not carrying the weight of making everyone comfortable anymore. You're just saying what you mean, clearly, directly, honestly, and that's freeing. So pay attention to your words, choose them intentionally, and watch how your confidence and your voice transforms. Chapter 11. Your wounds don't stop you from speaking. They give your voice depth. The voices we trust most. Think about the people whose words have stayed with you. The speakers, writers, leaders, friends who've actually changed you. Were they perfect? Were they untouched by pain? Did they speak from a place of flawless, unblemished confidence? No, they spoke from their scars, from their struggles, from the places where life had broken them open and forced them to rebuild. And that's exactly why you trusted them, because pain doesn't disqualify your voice. Pain gives your voice weight, it gives it texture, it makes people believe you, because they can hear that you've lived what you're talking about. You don't need to be healed to speak. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to be past your pain. You just need to be honest about it. Why we hide our wounds? We've been taught that vulnerability is weakness. That if people see our struggles, they'll think less of us. That we need to be perfect, polished, unaffected to be taken seriously. So we hide. We present the version of ourselves that looks like we have it all together. We speak from a place of pretend confidence, pretending we've never doubted, never struggled, never broken, and people can tell. They can hear the performance, they can sense the distance, and they don't connect with it. Because perfection doesn't inspire, resilience does. Your wounds are your credentials. You don't need a degree to speak about heartbreak. You don't need a certification to talk about fear, failure, or finding your way. Your wounds are your credentials. They're proof that you've been there, that you understand, that you're not speaking from theory, you're speaking from lived experience. And that makes people listen. When you say, I've been where you are, I know what it's like, and here's what helped me, that's powerful. Because it's real, it's earned, it's not borrowed wisdom, it's yours. How to speak from your scars without bleeding on your audience. There's a difference between speaking from your wounds and speaking through them. Speaking through your wounds means you're still in the pain. You're processing it out loud, using your audience as your therapist. It's raw, unfiltered, and often more about you than them. Speaking from your wounds means you've gained some distance. You've processed enough to extract the lesson, the insight, the truth, You're still honest about the pain, but you're using it to help others, not just to vent. You don't have to be completely healed, but you do need to have enough perspective to offer something beyond the pain itself. Ask yourself, am I sharing this to help them or to help me? If the answer is them, then share. If the answer is me, maybe wait a bit longer. The depth that only pain can teach, some things can only be learned through suffering. Resilience, compassion, humility, the understanding that life is fragile and beautiful and heartbreaking all at once. That depth, that's what makes your voice matter. Anyone can recite facts. Anyone can repeat advice they read in a book, but not everyone can speak from the place where they've been broken and rebuilt. That's the voice people remember, the one that's been through the fire and came out softer. Not harder, wiser, not bitter, honest, not perfect. You don't need to be healed to help. This is the lie that keeps so many people silent. I can't speak until I'm fully healed. I can't help until I've figured it all out. But healing isn't linear. And you don't need to be at the end of your journey to light the way for someone else. In fact, speaking while you're still healing can be incredibly powerful, because it shows people that it's possible to move forward even when you're still figuring things out. That you don't have to be perfect to be valuable. Your mess is part of your message. And the people who need to hear from you, they're in their own mess too. They don't need perfect, they need real. So don't wait until you're healed. Don't wait until you've got it all figured out. Speak now, from where you are, with the scars you carry, because those scars, they're not weaknesses, they're proof that you survived. And that's the most powerful credential of all. Chapter 12. Your voice isn't a request, it's a statement. The difference between asking and telling. There's a subtle but crucial shift that happens when you stop treating your voice like a request and start treating it like a statement. A request says, is it okay if I say this? Do you agree? Will you let me speak? A statement says, this is what I think. This is what I need. This is my truth. Requests seek permission. Statements claim space, and confident people don't ask for permission to exist. How we turn statements into requests. We do this unconsciously, mostly through our language and tone. Upspeak, ending sentences with a rising inflection, turning statements into questions. Hedging, I just think. Maybe we could, I don't know, but. Over apologizing, sorry, but. I'm sorry to bother you. But. Seeking validation, does that make sense? Do you see what I mean? All of these turn your statement into a request for approval. They signal, I'm not sure this is valid unless you agree. But your truth doesn't need validation to exist. What a statement sounds like. A statement is clear, direct, unapologetic. It doesn't hedge, it doesn't soften, it doesn't ask for permission. Statement, I need this deadline extended, not is there any way we could maybe extend the deadline? If that's okay. Statement, I see this differently, not I don't know. But I kind of feel like maybe there's another way to look at this. Statement, this doesn't work for me. Not I'm sorry, but I'm not sure this is really working for me. If that makes sense. See the difference? The statement owns itself. It doesn't apologize for existing. Why we're afraid to make statements. Making a statement feels risky. It feels like you're putting yourself out there, declaring something without a safety net. Because here's the thing, when you make a request, you're inviting agreement. If they don't agree, you can always backtrack. Oh, it was just an idea. Never mind. But when you make a statement, you're standing by your truth. There's no escape hatch. You've committed. And that feels vulnerable, but it's also powerful. Because it shows you trust yourself enough to stand behind your words. When to use statement language, use statement language when setting boundaries. I'm not available this weekend. Not I'm sorry, but is it okay if I don't work this weekend? Sharing your perspective, I think we should prioritize this. Not maybe we could think about prioritizing this. Expressing needs, I need more support on this project. Not is there any way I could possibly get a bit more help? Making decisions, I've decided to take a different direction. Not I'm thinking maybe I might take a different direction. If that's okay? Statements aren't aggressive, they're clear. And clarity is respectful to yourself and to others. Your voice is not a maybe. Your thoughts, your needs, your boundaries, they're not maybes. They're not suggestions. They're not up for debate unless you choose to open them for discussion. Your voice is a statement. It's a declaration of what's true for you. And you don't need anyone's permission to speak it. So stop softening. Stop hedging. Stop turning your truths into questions. Say what you mean. Clearly, directly, once, and then let it stand. Chapter 13: How to respond when someone tries to silence you. When your voice threatens someone, hears something uncomfortable but true. When you start using your voice, some people won't like it, not because you're doing it wrong, but because your voice disrupts their comfort. It challenges their control. It reminds them that you're not as easy to manage as you used to be. And when people feel threatened, they try to shut you down. They'll dismiss you, question you, mock you, make you feel like you're overreacting, being too sensitive, causing unnecessary drama. This is when you need your voice most. Common tactics people use to silence you: dismissal. You're overthinking this. It's not that deep. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Tone policing. Why are you being so aggressive? Calm down. You'd be taken more seriously if you weren't so emotional. Gaslighting. I never said that. You're remembering it wrong. That's not what happened. Mocking. Wow, someone's sensitive today. Relax. Why are you so worked up? Deflection. Changing the subject, turning it back on you, making themselves the victim. All of these tactics have one goal: to make you doubt yourself, to make you question whether you have a right to speak, whether your perspective is valid, whether you're too much. Don't fall for it. How to respond without backing down when someone tries to silence you. Here's what you do. 1. Don't defend your emotions. If they say you're being too emotional, don't try to prove you're not. Just repeat your point. Maybe I am, but my point still stands. 2. Don't get pulled into their deflection. If they try to change the subject or make it about something else, redirect. We can talk about that later. Right now I'm talking about this. 3. Don't over-explain. The more you explain, the more you're signaling that you need their approval. You don't. State your point once, clearly, then stop talking. 4. Hold your ground with calm repetition. If they keep pushing, just repeat yourself. Calmly, firmly. I've said what I needed to say. My point stands. I'm not changing my mind. 5. Don't engage with insults or mockery. If they start mocking you, don't defend yourself. Just disengage. I can see this conversation isn't productive. We can revisit it when you're ready to have a respectful discussion. When to walk away. Not every battle is worth fighting. Some people are determined to misunderstand you, no matter what you say, and that's okay. You don't need to convince everyone. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need to make them see your point. You just need to say your truth and let it stand. If they're not listening, if they're being deliberately disrespectful, if the conversation is going in hurdles, walk away. Your voice doesn't need their validation to matter. A long game. When you start using your voice more, some people will resist, some will fight back, some will try to put you back in the box you used to fit in. Let them, because here's what happens over time: the people who can't handle your voice will fade out, and the people who respect it will stay. Your voice is a filter. It shows you who's actually worth your time and energy. So don't silence yourself to keep the peace. Speak your truth, set your boundaries, stand your ground, and trust that the right people will still be there when the dust settles. Chapter 14: Don't speak to be liked. Speak to be yourself. The trap of likability. For most of your life, you've been optimizing for likability, saying what people want to hear, softening your opinions, hiding the parts of yourself that might be too much. And maybe it worked. Maybe people liked you. Maybe you avoided conflict, kept the peace, stayed in everyone's good graces. But at what cost? Because when you speak to be liked, you're not actually speaking. You're performing. You're saying what you think will get approval, not what you actually believe. And over time, that performance becomes a prison. Who are you when no one's watching? Here's a question: if no one would judge you, what would you say? If there were no consequences, no risk of disapproval, no fear of being too much, what truth would you speak? That's your real voice. That's the voice that's been waiting. And the longer you keep it locked up, the more you lose yourself. Why being liked isn't the goal. Being liked feels good. It's validating. It makes you feel safe, accepted, valued. But it's not the same as being known. When you speak to be liked, people like the version of you that you're presenting. The edited, softened, palatable version. But they don't actually know you. They know your performance. Being yourself, on the other hand, means some people won't like you. And that's not a failure. That's honesty. Because when you're yourself, the people who like you are liking the real you. And that's worth so much more than being universally liked by people who don't actually know you. What happens when you stop performing, when you stop speaking to be liked and start speaking to be yourself? Something shifts. You lose some people. The ones who only liked the agreeable version of you. The ones who needed you to stay small, but you gain something more valuable: integrity. self-respect, the knowledge that you're living in alignment with your truth. And you attract different people, the ones who appreciate honesty, the ones who can handle your full self, the ones who don't need you to be anything other than you are. That's the trade, and it's worth it. How to speak authentically. Speaking authentically doesn't mean saying every thought that crosses your mind. It doesn't mean being rude or careless or disregarding others. It means saying what you actually think, not what you think they want to hear, sharing your real opinions. Even when they're unpopular, setting boundaries, even when it disappoints people, being honest about your feelings, even when it's uncomfortable, letting your personality show, even when it's too much for some. It means showing up as yourself, not the edited version, not the performance, not the mask, just you. The freedom in authenticity. Here's what no one tells you: being yourself is less exhausting than performing. When you stop trying to manage everyone's perception of you, when you stop filtering every word for maximum likability, when you just speak honestly, it's freeing. You stop second-guessing every sentence. You stop replaying conversations in your head, wondering if you said the wrong thing. You stop carrying the weight of everyone's expectations, because you're not responsible for their reactions anymore. You're just responsible for your truth, and that's so much lighter. You don't need everyone to like you. This might be the hardest lesson. You don't need everyone to like you. In fact, if everyone likes you, you're probably not being honest. You're probably still performing. The goal isn't to be liked. The goal is to be real. And being real means some people won't get you, some will judge you, some will walk away. Let them, because the people who stay, the ones who see the real you and choose you anyway, those are your people. And they're worth more than 1,000 surface-level connections with people who only like your mask. So stop speaking to be liked, speak to be yourself, and trust that the right people will love you for it. Chapter 15. Your strongest response. Say it quietly, but with certainty. The misconception about strength. We think strength is loud, forceful, aggressive. We think strong people raise their voices, dominate conversations, refuse to back down. But that's not strength, that's defensiveness. Real strength doesn't need to shout. Real strength doesn't need to prove itself. Real strength is quiet, calm, unmovable. It's the ability to say what you mean in a steady voice, without apology or aggression, and then let it stand. Why quiet confidence is so powerful. Think about the most powerful people you've encountered. The ones who command respect without demanding it. The ones who speak and everyone listens. They're not loud, they're certain. They don't need to raise their voice because they trust their words. They don't need to repeat themselves because they know they've been heard. Their power is in their calm, and that calm says, I know what I'm saying. I don't need to convince you. I don't need to defend myself. I'm just stating the truth, and people believe them, not because they're cloud views, they're sure. How to cultivate quiet certainty. Quiet certainty isn't about volume, it's about internal alignment. It's knowing what you think, what you believe, what you need, and trusting that enough to speak it without apology. Here's how to build it. 1. Get clear on your truth before you speak. Don't wing it. Don't figure out what you think mid-sentence. Know your point before you open your mouth. 2. Say it once. Don't repeat yourself. Don't over-explain. Say what you need to say, clearly and simply, and then stop. 3. Let silence do the work. After you've spoken, don't fill the silence. Let your words land. Let them sit. Let the other person process. 4. Don't defend unless asked. If they challenge you, you can respond, but don't preemptively defend yourself. Trust that your words can stand on their own. 5. Stay grounded in your body. Feel your feet on the ground. Breathe deeply. Speak from your center, not your throat. Physical groundedness translates to vocal groundedness. What quiet certainty sounds like? I've made my decision. Not I've made my decision, and here's why. And I know you might not agree, but I really think this is the right choice because. Just I've made my decision, period, full stop, no negotiation. That's power. This doesn't work for me. Not I'm sorry, but this doesn't really work for me. And I know that might be inconvenient, but I hope you understand. Just this doesn't work for me. Calm, clear, certain. That's strength. When your quiet voice carries the most weight, there are moments when a quiet voice is the most powerful tool you have. When someone is yelling at you, don't match their volume. Stay calm. Speak quietly. Your calm will disarm them. When setting a non-negotiable boundary, you don't need to yell no. A quiet, firm no is more powerful. When someone is trying to provoke you, don't take the bait. Respond calmly or don't respond at all. When you're delivering a hard truth, Quiet makes people lean in. It makes them listen more carefully. Your calm is your power. Don't give it away by matching someone else's energy. The difference between quiet and passive. Let's be clear, quiet certainty is not the same as passivity. Passivity is silence born from fear. It's swallowing your words, avoiding conflict, letting others decide for you. Quiet certainty is choice. It's speaking when it matters, in the way that feels true to you, and then letting your words stand. Passivity shrinks. Quiet certainty commands. Know the difference. You don't have to shout to be heard. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't have to dominate the room to make an impact. You just have to be clear, calm, certain. Say what you mean, once, quietly if you want, and then trust it. Trust your words. Trust your voice. Trust that you don't need to prove yourself. Because the most powerful response you can give, it's the one said quietly, with absolute certainty. Conclusion: confidence doesn't come before the words. It's born the moment you decide to speak. Here's the final truth, the one I hope you carry with you long after this book ends. You don't find your voice. Use it, and in using it, it becomes stronger. Confidence isn't something you wait for. It's not a gift that arrives one day, fully formed, ready to rescue you from your fear. Confidence is built, word by word, sentence by sentence, conversation by conversation. Every time you speak despite the fear, you're building it. Every time you set a boundary with a shaking voice, you're strengthening it. Every time you refuse to stay silent just to keep the peace, you're claiming it. Your voice doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be used. You'll stumble. You'll say the wrong thing. You'll feel the fear rise up and almost choke you. And you'll speak anyway, because that's what brave people do. Not wait until they're ready. Not wait until the fear is gone. Not wait until they feel confident. They speak, and then they become confident. So here's your challenge. Your call to action, your permission slip. Stop waiting. Start speaking. Not perfectly, not fearlessly, not only when you're sure. Now, with the fear, with the shake, with the imperfection, because your voice matters, even when it trembles. Especially when it trembles, the world needs what you have to say, and it's waiting for you to be brave enough to say it. So take a breath, feel the fear, and speak anyway. This is how you find your power. This is how you become unstoppable, one word at a time. 30-day practice. Speak your truth, even when it scares you, for the next 30 days. Commit to this practice every single day. Say one thing that scares you. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be sharing an opinion you usually keep to yourself, setting a small boundary, asking for what you need, disagreeing with someone respectfully, speaking up in a meeting, saying no without cover-explaining. The point isn't the size of the thing. The point is doing it despite the fear. Because every time you speak when it's scary, you're rewiring your brain. You're teaching yourself, I can do hard things. I can handle discomfort. My voice matters. And day by day, word by word, you'll become the person who speaks up, who doesn't stay silent, who refuses to let fear make the decision. That person, she's already inside you. She's just waiting for you to give her a voice. So start today. Start now. Speak. End of book.